All right, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Liftoff, your favorite real estate podcast on the internet, well, at least according to me. I'm your host, Derek, and I'm joined by my co host, Keith Myers, who's also my father.
Yes, sir.
But we also have a third person with us, a very special, important guest, a VIP, if you will.
Oh, I like that.
The amazing Jackie Guthrie. Thank you so much for joining us and spending
Of course.
on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for taking so much time out of your busy schedule. We appreciate you. For
Of
those of you who
course.
don't know Jackie, she is a top producing real estate agent down in South Orange County, lives and
Yeah.
works in greater Casa area and elsewhere throughout Orange County and beyond. She also does some business up on the mountain, up at Arrowhead and Big Bear, and really everywhere that her clients ask her to work. She's really tireless. She even does some business in the Las Vegas area. So
Yeah.
a pleasure to have you in. We hope to let people get to know a little bit more about you. The title of this podcast is Liftoff, where we try to help agents grow. If they're stuck somewhere, maybe help them see new thoughts and ideas, maybe new energy to grow their business. And whether they're new in the business or a long time, just need that little bit of a pump in the arm. So
The
again,
Liftoff.
that's Liftoff. There you go. Yeah. So share a little bit about yourself with us, will you, Jackie? And then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Yeah. So I have had my license now. I want to say it's a little over 14 years. And so I started as a part-time agent. I was teaching. I was a PE teacher at the time. And I was doing it just for a little extra like fun money. And we had summers off. So it was easy to do that. And then when I had my son, I decided to take a leave from teaching and give it a shot full time. And that was my best year to date. And it really just took off from there. And I haven't looked back. So, and I'm very happy with that decision. And I'm very excited to see where my career is gone and it's going to continue to grow. But yeah, I'm in Orange County now. I was in LA County when I started, and I will work anywhere I can get business.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
and folks, she is a top 1% producer in Orange County. So I'm really proud of that.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So much to learn from you, Jackie. But one of the things that I think is most striking about you is just your contagious joy and positivity. I feel like you brighten up any room you walk into. And I have to say, I'm sure that is a large reason to your success. But, apart from just the awesome personality that you have, what is something that you attribute largely to your success? At least, what have you learned along the way from starting off part time to now where you are currently in your career?
So I do think having my husband, who has a full-time job with benefits, was a lot easier to like take that leap of faith. But I also, and I see this, and I'm sure you guys see this all the time, especially Keith being in the position you're in, being like driven by commissions and money, although that's why we're in real estate is to make money. But they call it, what is it? Commission breath.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think when I first started, I was just doing it like family, friends, like extra, like there wasn't like a pressure. So I didn't feel like I never came at it from that angle. And that is something I really feel that I really try not to ever focus on that. And I never count my commissions before. I never like calculate what I'm going to make. I don't even actually want to know till I see the CDA like a day before closing.
Yeah.
But because I don't want to like jinx anything, but I also like, I'm not driven by that. And I think that people sense that and feel that, and they realize I'm doing things for the right reason and their best interests. And I do think that is partly why I am successful in real estate. And I understand it's a weird cycle where like you need money to pay rent or your mortgage or whatever. And like you are like trying to get that next deal. But I think when you don't act like that's when it like flows to you.
Mhm.
So that's a hard,
Yeah.
I don't
Many
know
of us,
teach that.
yeah, many of us have been in that situation. It is a lot better when you put that aside and just do the work, provide the service, provide that white glove service, and the results will take care of themselves.
And like, regardless of what price point, I feel like treating people You don't treat them differently because they're a millionaire or they're selling a mobile home or whatever the case is. And you have to treat every deal the same way and provide that same white glove service. And I think that is how you get continued business and not just like be transactional. I'm very like personable and not transactional.
Right. Something that I know about you and that we were discussing a little while ago is that you have two of the very important markers for someone to have a successful career. You're a former athlete. Some people don't know that. You played basketball and what else in college?
Softball, yeah.
Yeah, and softball. And then you morphed into teaching for a while. And that's the other thing. Many times teachers end up being good realtors because they learn how some structure, putting together a plan, and also managing the moving parts. When you're a teacher, you have students doing at different paces, right? And different personalities, and you have to manage all that. And
Yeah,
it's not like what we do as a good realtor. We need to multitask many times. We need to be able to problem solve, decompress things, and keep things
totally.
moving towards the finish line. And you've learned that very well, whether you know it or not. You bring that skill set to what you
Yeah,
do, and everybody feels like they're getting that special one-on-one service from you.
right. I do think that's helpful. And I do feel like we are us and wedding planners. I feel like managing emotions. This is like wedding planners. It's like the biggest day of their life, but we are dealing with the biggest purchase, whether it's first time home or they're downsizing, retiring, or even like investment properties. It's still a big chunk of whose ever money that they've been saving. And there's a lot of like conversation. I feel like more than half of my job is like talking through situations, talking people off the ledge when they want to cancel or situations like that. We're very emotionally driven. And I do think that teaching, I don't know about like being an athlete and playing sports. I do think that helps you with like time managing and stuff like that. But I definitely think teaching, dealing with personalities and different ways to like handle people and that has helped for sure.
Yeah, competitive athletes, the way I see the analogy between the two is that you need to compete, you need to work hard, and it doesn't come tomorrow. It's going to
Or
take some time to get there. You didn't end up being a great softball player just practicing once or twice a year. You had to put the work in, and you're doing the same thing in your career
right.
here.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm actually like, just for reference and anybody that's listening, it doesn't like some things don't happen quickly. Like you're saying, repetitions and stuff. I have a townhome coming soon in Kodo that I literally sold. I was not representing the buyer at the time. I listed it. It sold with this client. They did not like their realtor. They liked me. I followed up with them. And this was almost 4 years ago. And we've been talking about relisting for the past year, but he's a very slow mover. So now finally we're talking about listing next month. And I'm like, okay, this is like all paying off. But like it's taken a long time. And also having the relationship thing, like I feel like I've wasn't even my client and now he's my client and we're going to be relisting. And I think that's a testament of just the white glove service and not being transactional.
Mhm. Yeah,
Right.
it's treating people as humans, right? You're humanizing the
Right.
business and being able to prioritize the relationship over the transaction in and of itself. And I think that is a delicate balance to walk for a lot of people. And I'm sure that people have not quite figured out how to quite strive for success while also still maintaining the proper perspective.
That's hard. Yeah, it's hard for sure, especially when you jump into the business and you think you're going to start making money right away. And some people do, but like that's not the norm.
Right.
It takes a while.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely true. There's a high failure rate, and there's a lot of people that don't see certain rates of success, if ever, until much later down the road because it
Right.
requires such a consistent input of activity.
Right.
And speaking of which, I know one of the things that you've learned to leverage as part of your activity with putting yourself out there is the usage of social media. And I love the content that you put out, and I think it's
Yeah.
fantastic, it's professional, it's personal, it's definitely it showcases your personality as well. What how did you end up discovering that as something that you found enjoyable and also something that you found to be a useful magnet for business too?
So it was I think it was like a Gary V. I think it was a podcast or something. And he
Nice.
was talking about just getting in front of the camera. And this was like before, I think really, TikTok definitely wasn't around, but I started doing my Fired Up Friday videos and just like turning the camera on and giving a little tip or whatever. And so that kind of started it. And I was like, as you go on, like less takes, it gets easier, whatever. And then I would see people randomly at like my son's baseball game and they'd be like, Fired Up Friday. And I'll be like, oh my God. So a lot of people aren't commenting or liking it. They're still seeing it and you're getting in front of people consistently. And then about, I don't know, when did I start, Keith? Maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, I hired a media company and it is quite expensive, but it's also about branding for me. And I definitely think they have transformed my page. And so it's a lot more consistent. They're posting 4 to 5 days a week, depending on what I'm putting out. And then that is where like they ask you like what you want to do. But for me, it's like, I don't take myself too seriously. Like we can poke fun at ourselves. Like, so I have certain videos that do that. And I think that's people want to see you. And I also think it's fun to sprinkle in me with my son at the dirt bike track and doing things outside of that so they see that you're a real person. So it's like a good mix of things, but I definitely think I haven't had I'm not getting a bunch of DMs about, hey, can you list my house and different things.
Right.
But I think it's being consistent and putting yourself, and they're scrolling every day. They're looking at your stories every day and you can see you're getting the views and different things. And I think and now I'm starting to do videos and stuff about like local spotlights of different businesses. And I think being the mayor of your town, that's like my goal this year, like pushing out a bunch
Yeah.
of content to really
Mhm.
on that. So when they think about certain things, they'll think about me. So that is part of the social media push this year for me is just being consistent, getting in front of everybody for that so that still going to come. It's going like I'm not getting the business yet, but I think just keeping it up and being consistent will help me eventually like really catapult up through social media. Hopefully.
Yeah, I want to drill a little bit into that. When you talk about it's not cheap, you've made an investment, but I
Right.
see a lot of people will make that same investment in shooting out 3,000 mailers one time to an area that's a
Totally.
total waste of money. But you've
Or Zillow
invested
leads
because
and things like that.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's impossible to save yourself to wealth, but you can invest in two things. First of all, yourself. That's the
Right.
most important investment in you and your business. And then secondly, obviously, we generate enough money. We invest in those things that we do, the wonderful world of real estate. But I've got to I've got to commend you on that, that you recognize that early on and you're reaping the benefits. I'm sure your return on investment on that production company and the help is manyfold. We don't even need to calculate it right now, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, it was interesting. I did get, and it ended up not handing out, but it was a real person. They reached out to me before the holidays. They lived in Kansas. They randomly saw their husband had a work transfer thing in Irvine. And she found me on TikTok. She was just like typing in, searching Kodo Homes or whatever. I popped up. She texts me from my page and she's a $5 million buyer. Uh,
Mm.
Wow.
they moved out here. We were looking at houses. They didn't find anything. So we put them in a rental. But now she's like missing home. So they're moving back. So it didn't actually close and I didn't make that money. But the fact that I got a $5 million buyer from TikTok like still blows my mind. Like,
Right.
regardless of if I closed it or not, it was a real person. They reached out to me from social media. Like, that is, and TikTok's actually not even, I think I have like 4,000 followers. Like, Instagram's my main thing. Uh,
Mhm.
so that was pretty wild to me. So I just think that is another testament to like bang for your buck. This media company is very expensive, but like you said, Keith, with the mailers, like you send out one round to 4,000 homes, that's
Yeah.
5 grand or whatever. So, and they can cut videos up and replay them later. And so
Right.
able to like reuse a lot of this stuff and it goes on YouTube and it hits all the platforms. So I think bang for your buck, it's still, while it's expensive, I think that's where you get on your phone and you get on Zillow and you type in like everything's online now. So I think that's where you have to lean in a little bit on that.
Yeah. Everything starts online. So the more places you can be, because you may have somebody that that spends more time on TikTok versus someone that spends more time on Instagram and vice versa. But
Right.
then in the long form to your YouTube and then little clips here and there, stories and reels, and all the other mechanisms in which you can get that out. And then all the different styles you do. If you use comedy, you use some real good sound effects and things.
Yeah.
It's memorable. It really works.
Oh, thank you.
I admire you. I admire them, Mark.
Yes, thank you.
So that aside, I think there's obviously challenges to growing social media and all those aspects, but what are some things that you've learned and have you had to personally overcome as far as like growing your business over the years, even prior to spending a lot of energy on social media? Like what's been something that you've really focused on that you could recognize even like, oh wow, I see the growth from this point to now where I am today. Could you
Oh, so I can't like pinpoint anything because it's funny. Like when I first started real estate, there was no like there wasn't even like maps on your phone yet. So I remember printing out the Thomas guides and like
oh yeah.
like drawing the routes. So like little dumb things like that. So that's like hard for me to figure out. And I started like couple deals, a couple listings a year. And I would still take anything, but like I was selling mobile homes, land, 3 to 500 was like my price range, like where I lived. So growing my business to now like listing $3 million homes is a big deal. Like even for, for me, it's like crazy. There's one thing that I do, and I think so I don't send out bulk mailer things. I do occasionally, but it's not like I'll do targeted marketing letters. So I get them. And this is like pro tip for anybody that's trying to lift off or try something different. So reach out to your title rep or your title company. I know the one I use, he'll send me a list of most likely, like next likely to sell or whatever. So for example, I just closed the house in Kodo and he sent me a list of, I don't know, it was like 200 of the next most likely to sell, very targeted. So you're not just sending out 5,000 letters to everybody in Kodo. You're sending out targeted mailers. And I found a little thing on Canva. I put together a little email like, hey, your neighbor just sold for da. Very simple. And then I get the labels from Title. They'll mail them right to my house. So I get the little mailing labels. I put that up. I print it out and I send them out. I haven't gotten like a big return on it. I have gotten a couple of calls just asking like numbers and things like that based off of the sale. But then I also, any like expireds or canceled or expireds, I write handwritten notes and put like a little, like, depending on the season or whatever, I put like a little candle or whatever, and I'll leave it either on their porch or in their mailbox. And I actually just got a listing from it in Kodo.
That's awesome.
I've been doing it for years, and they're very like, I'll do like a couple a month just based on what's expired. But I told my husband, I was like, it finally worked. Like I wrote these letters and I spend so much time, but like this house I'm listing is 3.7. So and that's back to like my personal, like that is very important to me and writing the personal, like handwritten note that I took the time to. And the seller even said like, she's like, listen, we got a ton of calls when we went off market. We had a bunch of people sending like generic letters. And she's like, yours really stood out. And we really like that. And they're a little bit older, so maybe they like that. A little bit more personal touch, but I've met with them several times and now I'm listing their house in a couple weeks. So that's like a big deal. Like that was
That's
like
great.
like another little like, okay, people are getting them, even if they just read it, throw it away. But like getting in, I think those targeted mailers and then doing things like that for canceled or expired listings, I think is really important.
And what I
Yeah,
hear is that
you're
you're
on there.
leveraging. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go.
No, I was saying what I hear is you're leveraging your unique flair and your strength of standing out by, again, emphasizing that personal touch.
Right.
That goes a long way. Even if you're not always getting those callbacks, like
Totally.
you're seeing it come up in little different ways. And that I'm a firm believer in nothing productive that we're investing is going to return back empty, right? It's like the whole reap what you sow
Right.
wisdom. So
Right.
you're putting in that work of really prioritizing people. And I think it would be really neat if somebody showed up with if I got a candle and a handwritten card, that would definitely stick with me.
Right. That's
'Cause
what I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like you had to spend a bunch of money to stand out either, which is another great thing
Like
because it's like,
$5,
yeah,
like easy. And the other like good tip that I got, and this is, it can go social media, it could go how you market your business, but like, um, so I can't remember, it must have been like on a podcast or something, but like, if you're not like, don't do what's not natural for you. If you don't want to do a
Right.
stupid dance on TikTok, like, don't do that. If you feel more comfortable talking about stats in your area or door knocking or doing a mailer, then like, but you really need to go all in with whatever is like your brand. And I
mm,
that was really because there's a not that I can like pull off acting stupid on social media, but like I think I'm like funny about it and I don't take
Yeah.
myself seriously. But I think if another realtor, there's certain people that are a little more buttoned up, like they shine in other ways. Like I think if they tried it would come off like,
first. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so I just think if where you got to find what you're like, and like in Kodo, we can't door knock. So I had to find other ways to do things. But like, if you love door knocking and you love certain, whatever it is, like just really lean into that. And I think that was a really, that always like stuck in my head. Like, if I don't want to do it, don't do it because I'm not going to be doing it successfully and with heart. I'm just trying to like get through it where I feel like if, put 110% in something, you will see more of a return. So I just think you got to find maybe not necessarily what your brand is, but like what is your personality and what way can you take yourself almost to the next level? Like, I think that's important to figure out yourself.
Yeah, it's all about developing relationships, and you're doing it in a way that may be different than somebody else, but the key is you're doing it.
Yeah,
And you're using a couple different buckets, as one of our other guests talked about, is that you have to have a few ways. So you're doing some expires your way. There's your way, smart way, and then you're
right.
doing a lot of the building and maintaining of your database and growing people, and yeah, then layering on top of adopting clients that weren't yours, like you mentioned, but they
Totally.
became yours because we know that, well, that stat that many of us have seen, that NAR says that 92% of the people who go to buy would use their agent they used to sell them the house if they could only remember their name.
Right. I've seen that where it's like
Yeah.
people end up using somebody else just because the other person never followed up. And it's like, you do all that work. And then it's like, God, like
Right, right. Yeah.
one thing I haven't done that is I've actually talked to Kendra Rice about it, and Kim is doing
Right.
a newsletter, an e-newsletter,
Mm,
which I'm like
Yeah.
embarrassed to even say that after 14 years, I've never done like a newsletter, like just a monthly newsletter to my database. I literally haven't. And this is something that I'm like, okay, this is going to be a goal this year. It's something that I can integrate and just add another layer to my marketing and see if I just think that getting in front of people is good. So that's going to be my goal for 2025.
Yeah. That's great. Well, we'll keep sharing ideas and together we'll be better. But
Yeah.
you've nailed it, and the sky's the limit. And I know that you're going to continue to grow and grow your market share and and you're going to be raising your price point. You're intentional about that as well. So we're real excited about
Yeah.
working with you, Jackie.
I know. Let's go. Let's get the best year yet.
that's
Yeah.
right. Apart from the newsletter piece, which I think is a great way to tie in a lot of your marketing effort and just like you said, continue to be top of mind, continue to be the name and face, the mayor of all of those things are valuable ways of prioritizing those personal touches. But apart from that, do you have any big goals? Maybe if it's not just for this year, but like in the next 5 years that maybe it's a trip, maybe it's something personal, maybe it's something,
Oh, like
I don't know, like take that however you want it. But is there something in particular that you have your eyes set on to accomplish in the next 5 years?
it's always like real estate related. My husband hates it.
I love it.
Um,
Well, that just so happens to be the theme of
I love it.
so
right? So like a big lofty goal is like I say 50 million in sales this year. That is like super lofty. But last year was like not I think I did okay. It was probably not a great year for a lot of people, but for me, I was a little disappointed in some of the deals that didn't happen and the way the market shifted mid-year. So I'm really manifesting this and like positivity from December. I'm like, this is going to be the best year yet. We are going to have like, so that is my goal. If I land at 40, that's still a great year.
Absolutely.
But that is my goal for this year. And if every year I try to do a little bit more, but that is my dream goal for this year is 50.
That's a big number, but we have faith that you're going to get there.
One of these years.
Yeah.
If
And
you
also
keep
to win like
facing
tennis tournaments, and that's it.
one
Well,
of the not to, I guess, put you on the spot too much, but you talked about manifesting, you talked about having that positivity, and that's something actually personally that I've been really thinking on even very recently. It keeps coming up for me. Just
Yeah.
how real it is that our mentality is our reality and how consciousness is so integral into every part of life. You
Right.
see the most successful people, whether it's a Kobe Bryant or a Steve Jobs or whatever person pops in your head of that kind of
Right.
pinnacle of achievement, it really does boil down to that resilient belief in oneself. And
Right.
so for you, like, what are some ways that you practice manifestation or having that positive mindset on a regular?
You're gonna love this. I don't know what Keith's gonna say about this. I also like struggle with it because last year I had a couple listings and we literally went on right before June. And then mid-June, July, the market just was so wonky. And so you find yourself like trying to like not, I don't know how to say it, like I was getting like down on myself. I'm like, well, this year
Yeah.
terrible and whatever, I'm gonna lose this listing. And I'm making conscious efforts not to even speak that way, even about
Mhm.
myself. Like, oh, I'm feeling so fat today. Like my husband's like,
Mhm.
stop putting that out in the universe. But I literally, and this is where Derek's gonna love this. I see 1111 all the time. And
Mm.
so anytime I see it, I do like a little like in my head, or like if I'm by myself in my car or whatever, I'll say like, what do I always say? I say something about just positivity. It's always going to come back to me. And then I'll talk about like my goals, but I say it out loud as if it's already like happening or happened. So I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
having the best year in real estate yet. I'm the top producing agent in my area. I say like cheesy.
No, it's real. I that's not cheesy to me. And I don't, I think part of what I want you to feel comfortable to say, because anyway, continue.
But and so last year I actually got 1111 tattooed like on my leg because I see it so often.
Nice.
So I literally that's like my thing whenever I see it. And in the morning I try to like before I get on my computer, I'm like, okay, we're having a great day today. I'm gonna get a lot of shit done. Like we're gonna crush it. And I try to it's hard some days.
right.
Trust me. I'm
Yeah.
not
Oh, yeah.
a beam of sunshine over here, but I really try. And then that 1111 is just like a reminder to like, okay, I'm seeing it again, like say my mantras and say like, and a lot of them are real estate related. Like I'm a top producing agent in my market. I'm the best agent in Kodo. I'm having the best year I've ever had. Like I
Mhm.
say things like that. I'm going to make 50 million in real estate,
Heck
sell
yeah.
it on real estate. So there's like
Yeah.
things like that I'm like trying to manifest. And now things are like popping up on my search thing, like in your For You page.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, so I'm
Algorithm.
seeing these things, yeah, and I'm hearing these people and how they talk and what they say, and I'm like, okay, just keep like you're on the right track, and if nothing else, it puts you in a better mood. Like just think
Mhm.
things, and you're like, okay, yeah, let's go to this listing appointment, let's crush it. Like, so if for nothing else, it shifts your mindset a little bit.
Of course.
But yeah, is that what you do? Am I the only one?
No,
Well, thank you
it's
for being
something that
honest about that. I think if we're all honest, watch those of us watching this, and we're honest with ourselves, we all fall prey to that from time to time. It
Yeah,
creeps in the back of our head or somewhere along there, and we need to banish it because we're all wonderfully made. And that if we believe in ourselves by telling ourselves, I think that that can really help us through some, especially when you go through the downside. When
totally.
we look at someone like you, Jackie, and we think, first of all, you said something about being fat. I almost choked on something because, but we all have our days, right? Even people
Totally.
that you go, well, she's never had a bad day. Things happen.
Yeah,
People
totally.
burden your life. I know your son broke a foot
Femur.
femur. Yeah, leg. Oh my gosh. There was some, which is part of growing up, but still like your mom going through that. Those are tough, but
Yeah.
maybe on the business side that we can let, and I see it all the time. Unfortunately, I've seen people really go in the tank over a life event that is unfortunate part of life. It happens to all of us. And
Right.
we need to get back on the motorcycle as your son did and keep getting on again.
Well,
But
and I did to be fair, I just lost a listing. And so that really it is a friend and I had the listing last year. I did absolutely nothing wrong, but they want to go in a different direction, even though we were priced over by $1 million, all the things. So I really had to take a minute and I'm like, okay, I'm going to let myself be mad about this and frustrated. Got to keep pushing, moving on. There's other great things happening, but yeah, really sucked. But that is real estate in a nutshell. So
yeah,
if you can't
sure.
if you can't bounce back, those are the people that are like, this is too tough. But I do
Yep.
think actually that's probably where the sports thing comes into play. I struck out a lot, but I was also the number 2 hitter for home runs. You have
That's
to there's a balance, and if you have to, you're gonna strike out for sure.
Yeah, for
That's a
sure.
perfect analogy though,
Yeah.
really, because you're gonna strike out, you're gonna have a bad at bat, you're gonna go through a slump, right? But does it
Michael
keep you
Jordan, what is his stats? Michael Jordan's, they talk about his stats all the time. He's the number 1 shooting, but he only made 50% of his whatever,
yeah,
Right.
stuff like that.
100%, yeah. And it's just a reminder that failure, quote unquote, or striking out is all part of the path of success. And if anybody has the mentality that you're not gonna have to go through the school of hard knocks to get to the place that you wanna be, then you should probably adjust your mindset. That
Okay.
doesn't mean that you can't have a lot of joy in the midst of the challenge like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Absolutely don't bypass yourself if you're like, today really sucks and I just need to embrace the suck and just sit with it for a little bit.
Right.
And then you bounce back, right? Because everything's temporary. And it's a way to just remember, hey, I'm taking this a breath at a time, a day at a time,
Yeah.
meal at a time, right? And when it comes down to it, I trust I'm setting my intentions and I believe that I can achieve it. And that is
Very
powerful.
totally. I totally, and they say something about the energy of even when you just say something positive and putting it out there. I don't know, something with the energy and what you attract, and it's very all the things. It's
Yeah.
it's obviously it works for a lot of people, but I'm like, hey, it can't hurt, right? It can't hurt being
Yeah.
positive and saying these things. And
Yeah, it's a common thread we hear of successful people in all walks of life, right? We hear some of the things you've said, so it's got to be true. You probably even people like Derek was mentioned, people outside of business, whether it's Bill Gates or Stephen Jobs or Elon Musk or anybody, they go through these things as well. So
yeah,
glad to hear that you fight through it. Well, I want to say thank you for taking so much time with us
of
today,
course,
Jackie.
of course.
We struggled through some technology issues that people don't even need to know about, but there's an example of our ability
I,
to adapt
yeah.
and make things happen. So do you have any parting thoughts, anything you would want to share, any last things that you covered a lot, but if there's
I
anything
know. Just if anybody ever has any questions or want help, or I don't even know, but always doors always open. You can text me, message me, DM me, whatever. Very I'm still learning and struggling, and Keith has seen me call him, but Keith, I need help.
I'm
So
there for it, whatever I can do.
yes, you are. You're the best. But yeah, if there's anything anybody ever needs or has questions on, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll put your contact information embedded into this. So thank you so much.
Of course.
All
Derek,
right,
take us out.
everyone. Peace out for now. Stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure that you're following Jackie.
Yes.
And until next time,
Until next time, guys.
excellent.